Hey guys, so it's Tuesday, October 5th. I'm a little bit late because I had something to take care of, so I wasn't able to start on time today. But hopefully, y'all can catch this on a rerun or watch it later. But I had a short topic today. It's a question that I got this week, and the question was, how can I prove my innocence uh, on a domestic violence charge? And you know, the the answer begins with, when you're accused of a crime, you have nothing to prove as an accused, right? So the state has the burden of proof in all criminal cases, and so it's the state's obligation to present evidence that a jury would use to enter a finding of guilt, right? In a domestic violence case, it is the state of Texas versus the accused, right? In a domestic violence case, what happens is the victim uh, is and will be the primary witness for the state of Texas, right? And so the gentleman that was asking me the question was asking about, you know, in his situation, it was he and his wife uh, alone in an apartment, and she accused him of domestic violence or of an assault family member. And the neighbors heard screaming, but there were no actual witnesses, and it was a neighbor that called the police to the scene. So his question was, well, how can I prove my innocence? She's lying. And so there is no burden of an accused to prove his or her innocence, right? And so in his situation, it's what we call a he said, she said situation. And so this was not a hypothetical, but it was a potential new case, meaning the man was calling me because he had been accused, but I had not seen any evidence, right? And so, as an analysis, I just went through it with him and I said, well, the officers likely had body cams on when they were interviewing her. Um, if she is claiming any physical injury, the officers not only would hopefully have it on body cam, but the officers would have taken pictures of any supposed injuries. In other words, the officers are trying to collect enough evidence for the state of Texas to initiate a prosecution at least, right? And so I can't comment on evidence I haven't seen, unfortunately, but so if but it's pretty basic, and you can kind of think of it pretty easily. If uh, someone claims that you hit them in the face, there's going to be some indicator. It's going to be red. It's going to start bruising. It's going to start swelling. If someone claimed that you hit them anywhere, we should be able to see some indication of evidence to back that up. The other thing that's important is when the officers are wearing body cams, is we look at the person's demeanor. Are they hysterical? Do they look like they're scared? Are they just flat toned, like they're just telling a story? All these things are things that we go through in an analysis to try and determine how we're going to proceed forward on a domestic violence case, right? Because since the accuser is going to be the primary witness for the state of Texas, uh, we would have the opportunity to cross-examine that person and ask all these questions. Okay, so you said he hit you under your left eye. Why don't we see any bruising? Why don't we see any swelling of the eye? Why don't we see any redness? If when she's speaking with the officer, she's calm and collected, uh, then we would go through that analysis. Uh, well, if you were so scared and so hurt, why aren't you showing any emotion when you're being interviewed by the police? just all these types of things go into an analysis. Recently, here in my office, we had a case where a gentleman was accused of assault, and the woman did indeed call the police and say that this man had assaulted her, not right now, but earlier. And she walked away from the situation. But the odd thing was, and my client had had some alcohol that day. It was obvious on the video. But when we finally got the body cam, there were two critical things on that body cam. One is, and they were staying in a hotel. One piece was that she said, "He didn't hit me." She told the officer that. And then the next thing that was critical on the body cam was the officer was trying to figure out, since they're staying in the same hotel room, how can I, diffuse this situation? And she says, "Oh, it's okay. I'm not afraid of him. If he keeps acting like this, I can just sleep on the couch or something. I just won't sleep with him." So obviously we were able to get that case dismissed. And, looking back on the totality of the circumstances and the officers doing the investigation, because they had been at a restaurant and she walked back to the hotel, which is where she called the police. And as it turns out, she was just trying to figure out what to do because she didn't want to be in the hotel with him at the time, I guess it seemed. And because my client was intoxicated, I think the officer just didn't know any other way to diffuse the situation, is what I'm guessing. And I will say that the officer's body cam that we got where she's having the conversation with was not the primary. The primary had gotten the initial report and then gone to the restaurant to talk to the male and figure out what was going over there. And the officer's body cam that became crucial evidence was just standing there with her until the primary officer got back. So he's just kind of chit-chatting with her. So the primary officer didn't have that information at the time when he came back, and eventually filed charges on my client. But, the bottom line, what I was trying to convey to this gentleman was that there's no duty that you have to prove your innocence. The burden of proof never shifts to the defense. It stays on the state through the entire trial and the entire proceeding. So I couldn't give him the answer he wanted because I haven't seen his evidence. And so, it's hard for me to just guess what the circumstances might be. I don't know exactly what she told the officers that he did or didn't do. And I don't know what the officers did to document any evidence that they thought was evidence of a crime. So I wasn't able to answer his question on that. Hey, Paula, Nanette, Mom, Margaret, see y'all. So that was kind of all I had today. It was short because I was running late. Hopefully I'll get some good questions for next week and we can have a little bit longer of a video. But y'all have a good rest of your week, and I'll see y'all next Tuesday.